Tom Swarbrick on LBC.
5:49 the time. I'm going to bring you after the news at 6, possibly, hopefully, maybe the most uplifting hour of radio, the most freeing hour of radio you'll have heard at least this week. But not before one of the best bits of storytelling anywhere on the dial. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Simon Marks, American Week.
Tom, I'm going to start this week with a bit of news that you may not have heard amid all the other noise that has been grabbing the headlines from America over the last 7 days. Because on Wednesday, the US Treasury disclosed that for the first time, the United States national debt has reached $40 trillion. That's nearly 30 trillion quid.
Even though we inherited this debt bomb from the Biden administration, we actually do have a plan to get the economy growing faster than the debt, and that's the most important thing.
Vice President J.D. Vance telling right-leaning Newsmax TV that there's nothing to worry about. But while Joe Biden's orgy of public expenditure did inflate the debt by more than $8 trillion, that's nothing compared to Donald Trump. He's inflated it even more by $11.5 trillion, and he's only just getting started.
The issue that we've had under the Biden administration and what we're still kind of dealing with is that the debt was growing faster than American GDP. Even though the media doesn't cover this, I'm glad you're asking this question because Scott Bessent is very much on top of it. He knows it's a problem, and he's got the president's empowerment to do something about it.
So let's talk about Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, President Trump's Chancellor of the Exchequer. You heard the Vice President there say Mr. Bessent is very much on top of the situation. So let's do a quick verification of that. Here he is, also appearing on Newsmax, and you tell me, does this fella sound to you like a bloke who is very much on top of the situation?
In the working families tax cut, we had the immediate expensing for factories and the factory goods for equipment. And so that is a hit now to the deficit, but we are creating productive assets for future growth, which will be paying taxes all the way down the line. So I think of that more as like pulling back a slingshot and creating a lot of potential energy that becomes kinetic.
Yeah. Even the very supportive pro-Trump host of that program knew a bill of goods when he was being sold one.
40 trillion is a huge number, and we should all be alarmed by the level of debt that we have now as a nation.
That is Michael Peterson, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Peter Peterson Foundation, an outfit started by his late father to get the country to focus on the fiscal challenges that it faces. He says the national debt will hit $50 trillion in about 6 years. And with the baby boomer generation retiring and living longer than its predecessors, the entire social security system, basically the state pension in America, is at risk of collapse.
Both parties have contributed to this challenge. We've had administration after administration, Congress after Congress, kicking the can down the road.
So you might think that with all-important midterm elections just 73 days away, the country would be knee-deep in a really voluble debate about how, basically, to stop America from going bankrupt. But that's hard work, so instead, we've spent the week talking about a woman called Natalie.
There's something uniquely despicable about lying a nation into war.
That's Senator John Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia, campaigning for re-election and possibly soon even for the presidency. In a speech excoriating President Trump over the war on Iran, the senator took the nation to a place where Democrats had not publicly gone before.
While he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
That mention of Natalie Harp, the president's 35-year-old statuesque blonde aide who enjoys total access to him and left gushing personal notes for him, was the start of open season on an issue that up until now has simply been a hotbed of rumour and innuendo among Washington's chattering classes. Known as the president's human printer, Ms. Harp's main job is lugging computer gear all over the world so that she can print up positive news stories about the president wherever he finds himself. But she also does more than that.
How many people are watching?
Can we tell how many, Dan? How many people are watching?
In a fly-on-the-wall film commissioned by the Trump campaign in 2024, Harp takes dictation from the president and in real time edits and posts his words onto his blowtorch social media account.
Okay, say these out. The things of which he complains. The things of which he complains.
Natalie Harp is now the subject of a feeding frenzy as a direct result of Senator Ossoff's speech. It was immediately raised by a reporter at the White House.
John Ossoff said you'd rather travel with your aide, Natalie Harp, and build the ballroom than do your job as president. What is your response, John Ossoff?
You mean Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman look-alike? No, I would much rather do other things. We're building a great facility here.
The president's supporters manned the barricades, accusing Senator Ossoff of sexism and reminding the public that only weeks ago, Democrats were still embracing a candidate for the Senate in Maine who had been accused by multiple women of sexual harassment and then by one of rape.
What we are learning from Democratic men right now is that if you're a conservative woman in politics, you are less than human.
Republican commentator Scott Jennings gleefully riding to the president's defense and openly auditioning to succeed Caroline Leavitt, who is about to step down as White House press secretary.
Oh, they like to bill themselves as the party of women. But is there anything uglier than the party of women explaining to a bunch of clapping seals at a rally how female political staffers are really only good for one thing? Wink, wink.
At the White House yesterday, they circled the wagons, suddenly adding an event to the diary that saw the return to Washington of a woman we haven't laid eyes on since the middle of July.
Good afternoon. I heard you missed me. Here I am. Welcome to the White House.
Or to be more accurate, welcome yourself to the White House since you haven't been there for weeks. It's hard to say whether either side comes out ahead as this unedifying spectacle plays out. Democrats, of course, want to remind the public that President Trump was found liable in a civil court for the sexual abuse of E. Jean Carroll, the writer who claimed she was raped by him in a department store dressing room in the mid-90s. But there's also no doubt that the president's opponents may have done better to leave the Natalie Harp issue on the sidelines rather than put it into play, not least because it's not as though there is a paucity of really serious issues that could be discussed instead, including the fate of the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Mr. President, is there enough food on the USS Lincoln?
Yeah, it is. That was a CNN fake report. The Lincoln has been out there for a period of time, good period of time. But over the years, we've had them out there much longer.
That is flatly untrue. The 5,000 troops aboard the Lincoln, a nuclear-powered Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, have, thanks to the president's fruitless war on Iran, broken all records for the longest number of days at sea without putting into port. Normally, aircraft carriers put into port at least once every 45 days, but the service members aboard the Lincoln have not seen land for around 275 days, 40 of them in combat. And yes, not only is there clear evidence from sailors aboard that the ship has been running low on rations, but family members intervened with the Pentagon after several troops had to be restrained from jumping overboard as mental health aboard the vessel plummeted.
They left their homes, their families, their lives. America's best. And this is how America is treating them. Half a cup of rice and 2 tortillas for a meal. Broken toilets, moldy showers. One sailor told his wife he hoped he wouldn't wake up tomorrow.
That is not a video put out by the Democrats, but instead by the dissident Republican organisation, the Lincoln Project. Donald Trump at it again, demeaning members of the serving military, this time just weeks before midterm elections. Polling shows Democrats can be increasingly confident about taking control of the House of Representatives, and maybe, if they're really lucky, also the Senate. One Republican train wreck that may now be unstoppable is taking place in South Carolina. You'll remember a few weeks ago, Senator Lindsey Graham, a slavish Trump supporter, died suddenly of a heart attack. Now, his sister Darlene is running for his old seat, and in a TV debate this week, things went very wrong.
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States, and if so, why or how?
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, so...
Groans in the hall among Republicans who realise that a normally safe Senate seat may suddenly be at risk. Nationally, there's even more on the line as the midterm elections approach. A country that this week tiptoed one step closer to bankruptcy now faces the real possibility of not being able to meet its obligations as its retirees in ever greater numbers demand access to their pensions and other benefits. A date with catastrophic destiny is on the cards. But Tom, very few candidates for office this November even want to talk about it.
From Washington, D.C., Simon Marks, American Week.